So that
Yeah. Yeah.
social proof piece helps, but it's also just you changing your psychology and going, wait a minute, the reason I freak out about this is because I have this story in my head
Yeah.
that tells me, you know, I'll be bad if I do that, or I'll fail if I do that. And when you start removing that story, it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
wasn't that hard after all.
Yeah. I
Right?
think as a people pleaser,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because I know that was just one people pleaser is nurturer is kind of just ingrained in me, and I was just so worried. Oh, what are they going to think about me? What are And so I just turned myself into a pretzel for trying to meet all these demands, and I just never even thought that it would be acceptable for me to go, well, you know what, I can help you 3 days from now, and or here's 20 different things that you could do in the meantime. And everyone's like, oh, okay, sure, that's no problem. And I was like, wait, why haven't I been doing this forever? So
I love it.
yeah, it's so much better. It really is. My husband even has told me, he goes, when I come home and ask you how your day was, you don't immediately go into this verbal, it was awful and these people are awful and and you're just, and he's like, my day was good and got a bunch accomplished, and
Yeah.
now I'm ready to be mom. So
Let's go have fun. Let's be fun.
Yeah. And I'm not afraid to take off, when I need to, or, and I used to be very noon to 1 lunch period, and now it's like, oh, if I don't get back to my desk until 1:15, the world is not going to stop. So, doing the groceries over lunch is not a big deal anymore.
Not a big deal. Just go do it. You're in control. And what's great is that it's fluid now, and we were just talking about that in the group coaching call today, which is, we're all looking for the wrapper, like the permission wrapper. Well, if my boss says I can be off at 5, or if the company policy is we can have an hour and 15-minute lunch, or if I have a company culture that said, because you don't have a company culture that necessarily promotes work-life balance,
Yeah.
You don't have a leadership team that says, you can have permission to have lunch from 1 to 1:15, but when we look for the wrapper, you never find it. And that's why we keep banging our head against the wall, because it's like, where's the permission wrapper? So now it's just you knowing that there's times you might skip lunch one day and you might work through lunch. That's cool,
Yeah.
And then another day you're going to take an extra lunch and get the groceries out of the way so that when you get home, you're focused on your family and you're not running errands during your, time off with the family or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fluid.
Yep. Yep. And it just, the only word I keep coming back to is it's easy. It's just easy now. It's like
effortless.
Yeah. It happens. So
that's awesome. And just very clear. It's like very clear and, clear cut, like how to make decisions that really create happiness and joy and contentment, because you've got your needs mapped.
Yep,
your stories are getting in the way.
Yep. Yeah. And, that's just kind of, it goes right back to it every time. Right. Is this helping me be there for my daughter? No. So, go, I can meet you during normal working hours, or, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but it really is truly exceptions now.
Right.
Yeah. They're few and far between. And like, I think I had somebody text me on Wednesday night. They're like, hey, I have, it's my folks out on the West Coast, so they're just getting off at work, and I'm like in the middle of getting my daughter ready for bed and everything else. And they're like, hey, I need, your help with X, Y, and Z. And they're like, can you meet now? And I was like, no, I'm, giving my daughter a bath. And they're like, well, how early can you meet tomorrow? And I was like, 6:30 a.m. your time. I can be available, right, bright and early. And they're like, perfect, consider it blocked. And before I would have like, okay, Bryant, take care of Sid and I'll get online. And, and I don't do that anymore. And it's just, it's not even an option. It doesn't even cross my brain to think that I need to hurry. If they were like,
everybody's fine, right? They're not freaking out. Nobody's like, oh,
no, we got it done like 2 hours before we needed it. And it was fine. So, yep.
Oh, freedom. I
know. It's like I said, though, I think back to what I would have done, and I'm like, so insane that I was living that way for so long, and that I am thankful every day that I found this. I just crossed it just randomly on Facebook. It popped up and I was like, oh, I'll go look at that. I need that. And that sounds exactly like me, and something's got to change. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad I made the decision to move forward, because it really is completely different from like, 2 months ago. I was miserable.
You are. Life has changed for you so much, Stephanie. And you really, I have to say, you really applied this, I mean, you came in with gusto, you were determined, you're like, I'm going to be committed. Like every lesson, every assignment, you showed up for every call, you reached out for help when you needed it. Like you really use the tools. So it's such a gift for me to be able to work with a client like you that says, I'm going to make my life different and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
And it is work. And it is, I mean, there were parts of it, and I think all of us have said it, where you like feel like you cried for like 2 straight weeks because you're working through all this, baggage that you've been carrying around for a little while, and you got to get it out. I mean, because I think that's the other thing, you don't realize you're holding on to all these things that have happened to you. And I think that was the one thing that really helped me, was also changing how I looked at things, that have happened to me. So as opposed to woe is me victim mode that I felt like I was kind of in, it became, I made it through that, and here's the things that I learned, and here are the things that I persevered through it, and it made me a stronger, better person, even though it sucked at the time. But what I was holding on to was, it was awful and it sucked and whatever, as opposed to, look how strong I was, that I made it through all the pregnancy drama we had, and all that stuff, and all the issues, and I still came out on the other side, and we have a beautiful daughter, and we're, as opposed to, I think I was still holding on to, woe is me, why did this happen to me,
right?
As opposed to focusing on really my strengths through that trying time.
I think when you do go through something that's more dramatic in your life, there's this sense of, and especially because some of the scripts that we found for you that have you, worried about security, what happens? It was not only holding on to it, but what if this ever happens again? And if this thing could have happened to me, what else could happen to me? And then
when's the other shoe going to drop?
And then we take that into work, right? Like, what if I don't show up for this meeting? What if I say no? What if I'm not available? What's going to happen? And it's not intentional, right? Like intellectually, we kind of know like this is silliness, but because it's come from such a deep rooted place, that's why I always say, like, we've got to get down, take that elevator to the ground floor and root out where that came from. Because once we can release ourselves from that, then it's just, we're going through life with possibilities, curiosity. Let me try this and see what happens, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's really what it is. I mean, like, what's the worst that they could be like, no, I need you to, or no, I'm mad at you. But I have had 0 people be angry or escalate or any of that type of stuff that I would just, in my mind, that I was playing out as the situation or the scenario that was definitely going to happen if I didn't say yes, right? Or, or if I didn't turn my life upside down to make that happen, right?
Right. And I think what's so cool about that, Stephanie, is that, I actually talked to a woman the other day who works for your same company in a different state. And you work for one of the top management consulting firms in the nation.
Yeah.
Management consulting firms are not known for having like really gentle, cool hours. They're known for being like, turn it up, spit it out, get it done. You work with offshore teams, so you've got different time zones. Like, you've got a pretty audacious job. You're really good at it. And there's this story that we all have, which is, in order to keep my place at the table, I have to do X and Y and Z. My company culture won't allow me to do A and B and C. Yeah. And as I was talking to her, she's like, even then she didn't, even though I was telling her, I was like, well, there's someone else that we've been working with that works for your company. And we understand top management consulting firms very well. Like, we've worked with people from other ones and stuff too. And she's like, she's still looking for the reason to hold on to those stories.
Oh, yeah.
She's like,
and I think we all do. I mean, it's like, no, there's no way I can see my way out of this box. I think I was talking to somebody that I do work with, right? I mean, and she was complaining about, offshore wanting to meet at midnight start times. And she is the subject matter expert. She is the expert. And I'm like, why are they dictating the time?
Right.
if they need you, then they will work around you is what I kind of was trying to explain to her. And she was like, but no, but this and that. And I was like,
the story.
Yeah, it's your, that'll be your scripts. But, you can't explain that to someone that hasn't been through this process too. So.
Right. Well, kudos to you for being brave enough to go through the process and have the courage to do it, because it is, it is not easy. It's simple once you know what you need to do, but it's not easy. I remember going through it myself. I tried to change everything else around me except for me. And then when I finally changed me, oh my gosh, like life became really amazing, right? And that's the process you've just been through, which is...
Yeah, I mean, I think you've told the story about, getting, if I just get a housekeeper, if I just get outsource, if I just outsource all these things that are keeping me busy, but that's not what it is. I mean, it really isn't. And I don't know. Like, I mean, because I was at the same point. I think I had, before I met my husband, I had the person that mowed the lawn, and I had someone come in once a week to clean the house, and I had, whatever. It still didn't make me happy, or it still didn't make me feel at ease or relaxed. It was just, now it's another bill I get to pay. So.
Right. And now you can add those people in if it will really help you meet your needs at a higher level. Okay, yeah, I think I would like a housekeeper because that would allow me to do that. But it's not the answer. It's just like something, it's strategy you're going to try.
Yeah. I mean, like the grocery shopping that we keep talking about, like they do the online delivery stuff now. And I'm just like, if push comes to shove and 1 week I can't make it out, that is my option. Right. So just, I don't know. Like I said, just it's easier.
It's just easier. Life's just really simple. That's awesome. Well, what are some of the actual, because we're kind of like already doing the interview here, so we might as well just use it. So, but what are some of the more tangible things that you feel like are outcomes for you in the program? Like maybe give me a couple of examples, like where you were at and getting stuck. Was it like time with your daughter? Was it feeling exhausted? Like what was going on for you that said, I've got to make a change?
Yeah. So I think for me, I didn't have that, here's where work stops and here's where family begins. And so it was just always blurred, and it would always bleed into my evening, and I would always be worrying about it. Or, somebody would, like I said, I would just drop things to go back to work, and, would leave my family, my husband and my daughter in the lurk. And, that I didn't want that. I didn't want that. And it was causing me to feel guilty about not being there for them. And, and that's where you kind of know, okay, this isn't sitting right with me anymore. Now looking back, I'm like, I know that my core values and my needs weren't being met, but those were the things where I was like, I can't do this for another 20 years. I can't do this type of job. And so I was almost at the point of, do I need to find something else?
Right.
But I've worked so hard, to get to where I am. And I don't want to necessarily give that up and take something that isn't as fulfilling and isn't as challenging, and just so that I can have some, that perception of balance. Right. So.
Right. I do remember there was like a point in the program as you were going through it, because you were working on your career needs map, and I remember you were looking because we have you do that, right? Like we want you to stretch and look for other things, right? And so you were looking at other things, but you could tell it was like, ooh, over there, that will be the answer, Yeah. And as you started sort of, again, as your psychology started to change and you started using some of these strategies at your office, all of a sudden that just went away. Like you never ever went back to that again. And you were just like, it was like, oh my God, I have a great job. I know I can navigate this and make this work, because you make a phenomenal income. You're very good at what you do. You work for a killer company. And if you can make that work, that's brilliant.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, and I get to work from home, which is rare for the consulting world, but, and I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, would you ever go back to, desk job, office job? I was like, I am broken on that for the rest of my life. I don't think I could ever drive into an office. Like the few times that I have to go in, I'm like, why am I in the car? Why am I here? The internet doesn't work as well. This isn't my stuff.
Yeah. That's and I'm glad you said that, because, I feel like a lot of women are looking again for the wrapper. If I could just work from home,
Mhm.
and it would all be okay. And the funny part about it is like most of the women in the program, not all of them do work from home.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, and you know, you think, oh, okay, I'm home, so I'm physically here, but that creates a whole new
Yeah.
ball of, you know, potential issues. And I think that that's also where some of my have to be online at 8 o'clock, have to, you know, only take an hour lunch, have to, you know, be available and show as, you know, online, you know, so people perceive me as working, and like, no one cares. You know, really. I mean, like, I have my cell phone. If they can't get a hold of me on that, they call me on my cell phone, you know, so I think because when you first start working from home, you feel like you have to prove that you're deserving and capable of doing that and being responsible and not having that person over your shoulder saying, get this done. Right. So, you know, and then, you know, you sit there and think, God, I've been doing this job for now, working from home for 8 years. I think I've proven myself that I can get all my work done in a reasonable amount of time.
8 years. I think that's pretty good.
I think you know, nothing's fallen through the cracks quite yet. So I think we're probably safe that I'm going to get things done. But yeah, you know, and then there's also the separation of work and home. I mean, because your commute, what you don't realize when you do have that commute is that is your unplug transition time. And you know, the walk down the stairs in 2 minutes doesn't give you a whole like of transition time. Right. And so I know we've worked on some specifics around that, around, you know, like my husband goes and picks up my daughter from daycare. And during that time, I go down and I walk on the treadmill. And that's kind of my, not only my time to get some exercise in, but my time to shut the day off and get into wife and mommy mode. And you know, and some days I don't need that. I mean, there's some days where, you know, it's been a rough day or somebody's bumped at me and I just need that unplugged time where I can listen to loud music and sing at the top of my lungs and whatever on the treadmill. So,
just process.
That's awesome.
Well, cool. Any other, I guess a couple of questions before we wrap up, like where I know a couple of specifics for you were like, you know, taking the vacation where you're unplugged, you know, really bringing your husband more into your realm with your husband. Cause I know you've been like doing date nights at home. Like you've really been able now, I think just from what I've seen, the progress you've made, you know, to really focus on things in your life that were precious, that were missing or just not getting attention. Yeah.
So my relationship with my husband for sure was one of the big goals I had for this program, because after we had we had issues getting pregnant, so that became that was like our focus, and you know, everything revolved around getting pregnant and appointments and you know, and it kind of takes the romance out of things, you know, if you will. And so it all became very roommate-like for a while. And then we had our daughter very premature. And so we were just very focused on her for the first couple of years of life. And so we just really lost us in the process. And me being so stressed and focused on work and then focused on baby, and then there was just nothing left for me or him anymore, right? I mean, we, like, you know, when you think about I was always putting myself last to begin with, and then he became the next thing that bumped off the list, right? And so that was really one of the things I wanted to work on as part of this and make a priority. And we've been, we went on a vacation together, just the two of us. We did go with some friends, but it was just, just adult, no babies. So, and that was fine. Grandma loved it. Aunt loved it. So we know now we can leave the country and everything will be okay.
You left your laptop, or you never got on your laptop?
I left my laptop. Everyone, we went with two other couples, and every single one of them checked their work email while we were there, and I didn't look at it at all. And
it was fine.
Everything was fine. Nothing broke. And there is some work you have to do, obviously, before you go and when you come back. But for that week, I was not available, and and they all knew it. And I set very clear expectations, and, and it was a great time for us to reconnect. And then we made it a priority for us to have some date nights and really start doing that. And we actually found a date night in a box subscription. So we've been doing that.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun. They send you a kit and an itinerary, and there's even like, you can go online and get the menu and a playlist for the days. It's like the whole thing is thought through, and you don't have to do any planning, which, I mean, again, it's great. And you can start that right after you put your child to bed, and, you don't have to find a babysitter. And
isn't that great? Because I feel like what it is like when we're just working, we're either mentally at work or we're physically at work. And it's almost like you're so exhausted. It's like, yeah, we should have a date night, but okay, now it's 9:00 at night and I'm so exhausted. Can we do it tomorrow night? And then tomorrow night, and then tomorrow night. And before you know it, like years have passed, and date night, it doesn't even have to be like a date. Just connecting isn't happening because you're just exhausted all the time.
Yeah. And I know some of that's a bit of the season of life we're in. I mean, we got a 2-year-old, and we're both nearing 40, and that's a dynamic that probably shouldn't have been partaken of, but we wouldn't change it for the life of us. But we are tired. We are tired at the end of the day, and it's something that we both have to talk. We both talked about, and we both have made the commitment to make happen, because we don't want to lose that, right? I mean, and we both recognize that we've had that disconnect for a couple of years, and it's still work. I mean, it's still work in progress. We're not by any means, we're not super couple or anything, but we're definitely back on a good track. So,
that's awesome. Yeah. Just a smile on your face, Stephanie. I mean, from the time when we first started working together to now, I mean, you just like, you're lighter, your shoulders are back, you're just like chill, you're just happy. Like you can definitely see that switch that turns on, after about week 4 or 5 in the program, and you're like, yeah, I got this. This is good. Life is good. It's all like, it's balanced. My husband, my child, my health, you found personal things to do for yourself now instead of shop at Target and do the groceries.
Yeah. I went and I played volleyball for the first time in 10 years last night. So I'm like, this is probably why I haven't moved the lower extremities, but yeah, I'm super like bruised on my forearms, but
oh, no.
Yeah, but I forgot how much I loved playing volleyball. I love it. I mean, and I really enjoy playing it. And I was like, why did I ever stop? And it's just one of those things. And again, I was always like, oh, well, it's a night away and blah, blah, blah. But it's one night away, and it's not the end of the world, so it's something I may look at, see if I can't get, this is through Works, corporate team. They have like a citywide corporate challenge type of thing, and it's only for a few months, but I may look at something a little closer to home, and that way I can go do that a little bit more often. But finding things that I'd forgotten, about. Like I reconnected with some college friends just recently. We went back and we met up. I haven't seen one of them in 6 years, one of them in 2 years, and it was just nice to get together and reminisce and talk and laugh, and just things that I never made time for or never prioritized, but through this realized those are things I need. Those are things I need to have those connections and that time for me, and that time for it, because it makes me a better worker, wife, mom. I mean, if I don't have those things, then I'm just frazzled.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So,
and we all know it, like we intellectually know, like, oh, I should be doing stuff for myself and I'll be better off, but we don't do it because we're like holding our breath until the wrapper gets better, as soon as the job gets better, as soon as the project is over, as soon as I get a new boss, as soon as I retire, and it's like, my God, we'll be dead by then. Like, when we need to live our life right now.
Well, and I think a lot of people do that, even with like, you hear that a lot with like, weight, when I lose the weight, when I, and you have all this, okay, well, you are missing out on so much because you're waiting for something, or you're afraid of something, and so I think that's really the, we've removed a lot of the fear that the shoe is going to drop, that the world is going to end if I don't, do X, Y, and Z. And, we've removed the need for the perfect wrapper, like you said. I mean, because one, that doesn't exist. And two, it just, if you really look at what you have, more than likely it's just, it is going to meet your needs. You just got to do some tweaks. So.
Yeah. And there's such freedom in that because you get to control that, right? You're not waiting for the wrapper. Well, cool. Well, anything specifically that you would, I don't know, advise someone who's watching this? And I want to thank you so much, first of all, for, doing this, because I think your story resonates with so many women who, are looking for that perfect wrapper and waiting for life to happen, or thinking they need to like step back and like take less money or do a job that they're not as inspired to do, or all those sorts of things, which just, as you now know, is not the reality, right? Yeah. But I don't know, any advice or any, suggestions or anything that you would share?
If you're considering doing this, or if you're all do it. I mean, I don't know if the beginning will get on here, but like I was telling my mother yesterday, it's the best money I've spent ever. And I told my husband, I'm like, I'm so thankful I just ran across that one day, because it has been life-changing, and I feel so much better, and I just want everyone else to be able to feel this, because
me too.
Most people that are watching your videos or in your Facebook groups, they're smart, capable women, and they do amazing things, and they let the worry and the fear hold them back from being happy and just relaxed. And it doesn't have to be stressed all the time, and it doesn't have to be crazy frazzled. So I would say if you're on the fence, go for it. That would be my advice. So.
Thank you so much. I love it. Well, Stephanie, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to share your story. It's been a joy. Like now we can like cry tears of joy instead of
tears of whatever
fear and like all that. And I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you in our graduate group, which of course we always stay in touch, and we'll see you for those. And just in my privilege, my privilege to work with someone like you who is so committed and fiercely determined to say, like, life can be happy and it should be happy. And I'm going to find a way to make it that way. And you have, and you have an amazing life. So I'm super happy for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. So.